I do prison ministry.
Oh, okay.
I teach Wicca, Asatru, and Native American in prison systems.
Oh, okay.
So we're in 8 prison systems now. That keeps us very busy.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of the summer solstice sessions.
Yeah. Cool.
So,
all right.
Between that and getting ready to move and my chaplaincy duties, and I was at the hospital all day today. I left about 8 o'clock this morning, and I got home about 5:30 this afternoon. So.
Oh.
And I was drenched, so I had to go put something warm and dry on.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. We ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. We're ready? Good, good. Scroll of Thoth, Episode 16, June 25th, 2014. And welcome back, everybody.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm all right.
I haven't seen you in just a few days since we had our little tick episode down there at Babylon Rising.
You had a tick episode.
I know it, boy.
I didn't have a tick.
You don't have any hair. Why would the ticks want to be on you?
And let me point out that I offered you bug spray when you got out of the car.
That is right, but I never expected to find a tick in my hair.
Where else would you expect to find it?
On my lower extremities somewhere, down there near the ground.
They fall off trees.
Yeah.
So
I came home and I was running my hands through my hair, and luckily my daughter was here. I was so thrilled. And I said, uh-oh. Laura, is that a tick in my hair? And indeed it was, so I was creeped out.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny how we get creeped out by little things like that. But before I get too sidetracked about blood-sucking things in my hair, Babylon Rising was magnificent. Please go next year. Go down to Median. They've got all kinds of great festivals going on this year. I'm going to speak at the next one coming up, or one of the next ones coming up in July.
Festival?
The She Festival. I'm going to talk about heathenism behind bars. And I'm on the schedule for talking about the Disir at the Nordic Goddess Festival, so it's going to be a summer full of fun.
Cool. Well, speaking of speaking engagements, we have a guest with us tonight. We have Loy Pneumatikos, who is the moderator at the Luciferian Research Society, longtime follower of the Left-Hand Path, and the organizer of the Second International Left-Hand Path Conference going on here in Indianapolis. We get a lot of Indianapolis people. Anyway.
Lori, before we get going too far on that, what does the pneumatikos mean?
Oh, pneumatikos. It's actually my bishop name. I used that name when I was consecrated a bishop in a Gnostic, Universal Gnostic Church.
The OTO?
No.
Oh, you're not part of the OTO?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not.
There's a Universal Gnostic Church, too.
Yeah.
I've looked them up.
Yeah.
They used to have someone out of Carmel.
It's the EGNU. Yeah. Ecclesiastes, Ecclesiastes Gnostica Universalis.
Yes.
I think that's... Anyway, it's basically it's a non-hierarchical Gnostic organization, and there's several bishops that practice their own independent type spirituality. So there's no, I don't want to say there's no rules, but basically we support each other in our various paths. But we don't subscribe to any particular path. So everybody has, the freedom to
Don't they still include "do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law"?
It's not really a Thelemic, even though if you look on the website, I think when Alan Greenfield created it, he created it in a very Thelemic fashion. But and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's a lot of Thelemites in the group.
It's just not OTO.
In the college. It's not OTO. It's not associated with any other organization. It is an independent, non-hierarchical organization, standalone. And the bishops, I've met several bishops, and they're not Thelemites. Some of them are not Thelemites. Some of them are actually right-hand path. They're more Gnostic. They're more Christian-based. Christian Gnostic based. So, you know, it's really up to the individual. And we're just there to support each other and to help each other out.
But the name has...
The name actually is Greek, and it means it means enlightened one, but it's more complex than that. It means to strive for that enlightenment, to be kind of, you know, lofty.
Seeker.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Cool.
So.
And you do your seeking mostly on the left-hand path.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So our listeners are kind of all over the board. We have chaos magicians, Wiccans, other various pagan types,
right?
Thelemites. So to those who might not know what left-hand path is, give us the basics.
Okay. Well, I am a chaos magician. And I think a lot of chaos magicians are left-hand paths simply because it's kind of a individual thing. You know, you take whatever you need out of whatever systems that you're dealing with, and you take what you need from various systems and you create your own system.
And are you using that as a definition of chaos magician or left-hand path?
Chaos magician.
Okay.
And left-hand path, people tend to be more independent. There's a saying that the left-hand path is walked alone, in the dark. But basically, the difference would be if you look on the internet at some of the definitions, especially under Wikipedia, I think it has more like the Blavatsky explanation that right-hand path people tend to look outward to their deity for their salvation or whatever. They tend to want to, you know, their focus is to be at one with their deity, or to be with their deity at some point. Whereas left-hand path is more, we tend to look more inside of ourselves, and we see ourselves as our own deity, and we see that power. We feel that the power is in us, the power to create our own life, our own world, our own universe, our own changes, that we have the power to do that.
So on a very broad scale, you're using the same definition as the classic definition of introvert and extrovert. I'm not saying the common definition. The classic definition of an introvert is someone who is driven from within themselves.
Okay.
And an extrovert is someone who gets their power, their energy, their drive from outside of themselves.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that pretty much what I'm hearing you say?
There's more to it than that. I think it's a little bit more complex.
Yes, it is more complex because you're bringing in the ideas of deity and all kinds of other things.
Yes.
But still the drive and the center of where they are.
That's true. Yes. Yeah,
okay.
Definitely. That's definitely another layer of meaning you can attach to that. Absolutely.
I've never heard a definition like that of left-hand path before. I've always heard of it as right-hand path being following the light, left-hand path being following the darkness. Good and evil, the whole, you know,
and that's
extremes, not continuums.
Yeah, and that is the exoteric view. Whereas the esoteric view of from those of us who are on the left-hand path, the dark to us has a completely different meaning. We don't see it as evil or black. What we see is, I guess, the best way for me to explain is that all life originates from the dark. The stars are born out of a dark universe. The sperm meets the egg in the dark. Our ideas are germinated and formed from our subconscious and rise into the consciousness of the light. So we feel that we must explore our subconscious and our dark side, if you will, in order to understand ourselves and understand the universe that we have created for ourselves.
And when you say dark side, are you talking about, in Jungian terms, shadow self?
Yes, the subconscious. What's going on inside? Because that's where everything is happening. What our consciousness is just like barely scratching the surface of our subconscious. So the left-hand path tends to be, and you know, I think, I hate to say it, but I think organized religion sort of distilled it down to black and white, good and evil. And just like they took the image of the devil and made it evil, whereas the devil in the tarot just signifies a materialistic view of things, of carnal pleasures. But they took that concept and they just made it all evil, and you know, it's...
Well, the
it's
devil in the Bible is actually Lucifer, which means light bringer.
Exactly.
The you know,
which is Venus, the planet Venus.
The favorite
yes.
of Yahweh, of God, however you want to say, the most powerful.
Right.
And, you know, there is nothing of darkness in him. There's separation,
exactly,
but not darkness.
Exactly.
And religion has interpreted it as darkness.
Exactly.
Many.
Yes. Many.
I'm gonna throw a curveball.
Okay.
You ready?
Uh-huh.
So a lot of people, well, not a lot, but when you think left-hand path, you think Satanism, Luciferianism, all that sort of thing.
Yes.
How does that definition fit someone who is a theistic Satanist, who is actually seeing the devil as an entity to be worshipped, praised, and supplicated?
Are you talking about Hail Baphomet or Hail, you know, the actual Lucifer?
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Hail Satan. Let's go.
And let me just, I'm glad you brought that up. That's an excellent question.
It usually leads to, you know, candle wax everywhere and bad music, but
well, that and people who think they're Satanists or think they're, and I'm going to apologize ahead of time to those theistic people that, well, I'm talking about the ones that are sacrificing animals and things like that. I call them criminals, not Satanists. Okay.
I think they're a pretty rare thing to begin with.
Yes, I do. But beyond that, I think it's important for me to point out that myself and Jeremy and many of the Luciferians and Satanists that are coming to the conference are agnostic or atheists. We are not theistic. Now, having said that, we do have many theistic Luciferians and Satanists on the Luciferian Research Site forum, and they have their own groups, and that's fine, and most of them don't sacrifice animals or do crazy stuff. They may play bad music, though.
Yeah.
That's a possibility.
And they worship the Christian devil as opposed to Set.
And well, that gets into splitting hairs because we actually have a Temple of Set group on the Luciferian Research Society, and we also have, you know, this whole several groups of theistic people, and we even have vampires on there.
There's a rainbow.
Yeah,
of Satanism.
There's a rainbow of Satanism, and I'm glad you said that because I'm just going to say something right now, and I'm not even going to name their website because I don't want to give them any kind of press or attention. But there are some websites out there and some forums out there that push the Nazi agenda, the racist Nazi agenda under the banner of Satanism. Personally, I'm just going to come right out and say this. I don't think they're true Satanists because if you read the Satanic Bible, there's nothing racist in there, and there's nothing about sacrificing anything in there. In fact, well, there is. Anton LaVey flat out said, if you're going to sacrifice something, it needs to be yourself. That that sacrificing animals or people is just flat out wrong. It's immoral, and it goes against everything that he was trying to come across with. So having said that, there are some sites out there that are really pushing the Nazi agenda and the racist agenda, and they're targeting young people. They're targeting 16-year-olds who really haven't really don't understand the concept of left-hand path. All they know is they're pissed off at mom and dad because mom and dad are making them go to church. So they've decided to rebel, and then they find these websites and they get involved in some really ugly stuff.
We see that same thing with Asatru.
Yeah.
You know, where they bring in neo-Nazism and white supremacy, and really it has nothing to do with that.
Absolutely.
But when you go back to talking about Satan, and my mind is coming from the Kabbalistic viewpoint, where Satan
right.
is the opponent.
Yes.
And the opponent is really opportunity.
Absolutely.
Opportunity to know.
That's a good way to put it. I like that. Because if you look at the Satan, and I do say the Satan in the Old Testament because that's how it was written in the Hebrew, a Satan was like a prosecuting attorney. He worked for God. If you read Job, he was like, hey, God, I'm going to do this and this and this and see how Job reacts. They're working in tandem. They're working together. So, you know, personally, I see Satan as that archetype, that material, the archetype of the material world, basically. Nothing more. And I see Lucifer as an archetype of enlightenment. I see Lucifer as the snake in the garden that tried to educate Adam and Eve to get knowledge. You know, do you want to remain ignorant in this little garden of paradise, or do you want to step out of your comfort zone and seek knowledge and enlightenment?
Well, in Kabbalah, the purpose of the opponent is to reintroduce you to light.
Right.
To bring you closer to becoming one again with light.
Right.
So that's why they refer to it as, you know, opportunity. And of course I'm making generalities here.
Right.
But, you know, in doing that, then you begin to see how the idea of the biblical Satan is portrayed in bringing the knowledge of good and evil.
Yes.
And in bringing that knowledge, it was so that they would have the equipment and the understanding to be able to approach deity, however you see deity, with intelligence.
Yes.
Rather than reactive, as in fear.
Yeah. And see, that basically is what the left-hand path boils down to. We see a lot of the right-hand path religions, certainly not all of them, but a lot of them talk about fearing God and worshiping God and getting on your knees and that's fine, you know. I mean, to each his own. But those of us on the left-hand path are looking for something more. We want the knowledge. We want the power, the inner power. I'm not talking about power over other people. I'm talking about power over ourselves.
So I think you're going to have to backtrack just a hair, because you've given us kind of a definition of the left-hand path. But now I think you need to define what you believe the right-hand path is so that we can come with a complete understanding. Because you say those on the right-hand path, and now I'm not sure who's on the right-hand path and who's not, and what that actually means.
Basically, a lot of organized religions like Christianity, Judaism, Islam, religions that have...
Well, everything you've described so far is Abrahamic.
Yeah.
So are you meaning just Abrahamic religions?
No, I think there are other ones, like even Mormonism, and you know, there's...
Well,
there's
they're
other
Abrahamic
ones
as well. They believe in Jesus.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah,
I would
also
define probably most forms of Buddhism and most forms of Hinduism as right-hand path.
Yes.
Zoroastrianism. Yeah.
Although
most of those we.
Although there
Buddhists
are
don't
some
believe in
forms
God.
of Buddhism and Taoism that are left-hand path.
Buddhists don't
well.
believe in God, so
Well, some
I'm trying to understand. So if I'm not making real sense, you know, bear with me, because I think this is a question that a lot of our listeners are going to say, I don't really understand the reference. Because, as I said, Buddhism, Buddhists don't believe in God.
Yeah. Well, not all of
Hindus-
them.
Well,
Anyway.
no, but you can never say all of everybody.
Yeah.
The tenets of Buddhism in and of itself
Yes.
have no deity.
It's considered left-hand path. Yes, it is. And Taoism is considered
Okay, but I
left-hand
thought
path.
I just heard that was right-hand path.
Some forms of Buddhism are.
And Hinduism.
There's crossover with Buddhism.
The Hindus that I know, they do practice a form of worship that I would not, but not prostration as I see in the Abrahamic religions. So can you help me understand that?
Well, let me say why I call Buddhism a right-hand path is because Buddhism seeks an absence of self.
Yes, the annihilation of the ego. Yeah.
So that kind of precludes it from looking to itself as inspiration.
Because annihilation of the ego tends to be more right-hand path goal, whereas left-hand path tend to exalt the ego, or at least accept the ego for what it is.
Yeah.
And go from there. So it is a kind of a fuzzy definition, which is why during the first International Left-Hand Path Conference in Toronto in 2012, there was a lot of discussion about it. I mean, we're talking, after the panel discussion, well, during the panel discussion at the end, that's all they talked about. And most of the people did not agree with Jeremy and I about the name Left-Hand Path Conference. But Jeremy and I settled on that because it was the best definition we had. We wanted to include agnostics and atheists and Buddhists and Taoists and Satanists and Luciferians and Thelemites and of course we've always invited right-hand path walkers to attend our conferences too. I mean, we don't have a problem with that. But the thing is, we wanted to include a larger segment of pagans than just Luciferians. So we decided left-hand path would probably be. So
is worship a primary tenet of right-hand path?
Yes.
Whereas honoring would be left-hand path?
Yes.
Well, according to your definition, I'm left-hand path.
That's what some other people have told me. Some Wiccans have told me, well, wait a minute, that means I'm left-hand path. And what I've heard from some people who think they're right-hand path, when we start discussing the various ideas, they come to that conclusion that maybe they're not right-hand path. So I don't know, maybe, and I equate it sort of with Maslow's hierarchy. I think you get up to that level of self-actualization, and you just hit that point where you're not, where you discover that that the power is in you, and that you have that in you. So, and the other thing that we discover when we hit the top of Maslow's pyramid is that the thing we want to do next is help others up to the top. Once you've made it up to the top, then you want to help others spiritually, physically, and every other way.
Now, I believe that is true, but recently I got asked by one of my Tumblr followers what I thought the difference between left-hand path and right-hand path was. And I have a couple other things in there, but I saw one of the distinctions, at least in behavior, is that right-hand path people are generally evangelical. They want you to join their order, because if everyone's following along in order, then that's better for them. Left-hand path people generally don't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're following what they do or not.
Yeah, in fact, we prefer that you don't follow us. Find your own path in the left hand, it's that's true.
But that's of a loose definition of paganism is not in any way evangelical. We do not want you to come join us. We do not want to convert you. You know, go find what it is that you're looking for, but you have to start within yourself.
And we are pagans. We fall within that pagan umbrella. The pagan umbrella is huge.
By the way, I wouldn't call that a defining characteristic. It's like I said, it's a usual behavior.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Well, yeah, because in other words, you couldn't have Christo-pagans and, you know, all of that kind of stuff.
And you couldn't have those crazy so-called Satanists who are trying to recruit 16-year-olds into their Nazi cults.
Well, yeah, or the people who masquerade as Asatru or Ogunus and all of that same type of stuff. But truly, we don't proselytize.
Right.
We don't go out and say, come to the dark side, we'll give you a free cookie. Although I might come for
have
a
you
good
heard
cookie.
have you heard the good news of Cthulhu?
We have really good cookies.
Have you heard the good news of Lucifer?
Well, it's like the memes on Facebook. Do you have a moment to hear about my Lord and Savior, Carnernos? You know, said by the deer, and he comes up and puts his nose on the... Yeah. Well, this is very interesting because... other than the classic definitions and the crazy, excuse me for saying this, the crazy Satanists I've met, because in my prison ministry, the Satanists are lumped in with me. And they're lumped in with me because there's no place else for them to go.
Right.
And I keep telling the Christians that they're really part of their pantheon, but they won't have them.
Well...
so I get these guys who are sitting in the middle of the service and they're staring at everybody and mumbling and moving their hands and they're trying to creep everybody out.
Okay, now they don't sound like Satanists to me. They sound like crazy people.
Well, but they consider themselves to be
Are
Satanists.
they on medication?
Not most of them, no. No, but maybe they should be.
Well, I work in a psych hospital.
Right. But on the other hand, really... to them, it's about control.
Okay. Well, then they're doing it wrong.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I get the crazies who are lumped in as Satanists, and when I talk to them, they really have no idea what Satanism is.
Right.
They don't know anything about LaVey, and they don't know anything about SETIism.
Well, see, and there you go. One of the biggest complaints not complaints because I really don't care, but one of the things that I've noticed...
By the way, Colleen, for our listeners, is... referring to Salvador, I believe was his first name, Anton LaVey, who wrote probably the most popular satanic Bible. But anyway.
Yes. What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
Satanists. Well, okay, I need to address that.
Well, classic Satanists in the form of worshiping.
Oh, okay. I remember my
devil.
train of thought now. Okay, I remember my train. And let me get back to that because that's something that needs to be addressed too. But Christians who attempt to A, convert me, B, save my soul, C, argue with me about my philosophy, or try to sway me in any way. They tend to use these set lines, and when I start, if they quote scripture at all to me, it's very little, and I can usually quote more scripture back to them.
Me too.
Because when I was a Christian, I actually did read the Bible, which is why I'm not a Christian anymore.
Imagine that.
There you go. So I've noticed that the majority of Christians that I have met personally have not read their own holy book. I've read their holy book.
Right.
They have not, or they have not read the whole thing. Whereas, and I guess I see that same problem among a lot of the younger theistic Satanists, whether they can, they don't actually read the Satanic Bible. They interpret Satan as this Christian God form, and they don't take it any further than that. LaVey, when he created the Church of Satan, he was a showman, and he wanted to bring attention to that by using Satan, to his form of atheism by using the Satan icon. But he saw Satan as an archetype. He was an atheist.
But wasn't his archetype Baphomet and not the Christian Satan?
Yes. But what is the Christian Satan? What, Mephistopheles?
Well,
I mean, I don't even know what the Christian Satan would look like.
right. I
but
mean, Baphomet
I know what you're
is the
saying.
angel of light.
That's Baphomet is yeah. So, but the Christian church has lumped Satan, Baphomet, and Lucifer all together in one archetype.
And Mr. Spock.
Really, Spock is now in
Well,
that.
yes,
Been
occasionally
thrown
he's been
into the
interpreted
evil
to
bin
be,
as
yes,
well.
the,
Okay.
the representative
And Harry
of Satan.
Potter.
It's the
It's
ears.
the
And
ears,
Harry
it's the
Potter.
pointy ears.
Okay,
Yeah.
now one thing I might say, because this is a usual beef of mine, and some of our listeners might recognize it. So you kind of blame some of your left-hand path people for not reading the Satanic Bible.
Uh-huh.
Would you really say that it is a Satanic Bible? Isn't that name itself just sensationalism?
Yes.
I mean, I'm a big believer in don't have a
Yes.
holy book. Holy
Yes.
books are fucking garbage.
Okay,
Just
I
like
agree.
the witch's Bible.
No, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. But I still have it on my bookshelf next to the Christian Bible, next to the Gospel of the Flying Spaghetti Monster,
I love the flying spaghetti.
next to the Book of the Law, next to the Luciferian Scriptures that Michael Ford put out. And I've got all my holy books up there, the Gnostic text. I think you can, as a chaos magician, I'm gonna grab whatever resonates with me and use it.
I'm still
Right.
waiting to be touched by his noodly appendage.
Me too. Me too.
But also at the same time, I would say, hey, read all these books
Mhm.
and read a bunch
Right.
more books on top
Exactly.
of it. But don't call it a Bible. Don't say this
Uh-huh.
is the holy book. This is the word and the law.
Well, again,
I think that's right-hand path.
LaVey was
I
a
think
showman.
that's, subjecting yourself to a higher power.
Mhm.
To
Well, that's not
gnosis is
necessarily
Not
true
necessarily.
because when I was working in technical support and we were designing computer systems, that's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
We designed and developed computer systems, brought them in, and then had to support them through the first incarnation.
Uh-huh.
We always assembled books that we called the Bible. And
Uh-huh.
technical people always
Yeah.
have something that they call the
Yeah.
Bible.
There's the wine
because
Bible.
the word Bible means the reference or the
Yes.
source book.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, there are lots and lots and lots of Bibles. The difference is when you say Holy
Mhm.
Bible.
Yeah.
And remove the. It's a source book.
Yeah, we called it
Whatever.
the Bible.
But anyway, I mean, that's whatever. I mean, LaVey did what he did. He was not perfect, but he did something that nobody else before him did. And Michael Aquino, I've got to say, he also did something as a colonel in the Army. He got a lot of the laws changed for pagans. I mean, before when he first joined the Army, the military did not recognize pagans as a religion. So when our soldiers were killed, they were buried without
An emblem.
without that acknowledgement. And it was Michael Aquino that got all of that changed. So when I hear people, talk about LaVey or Aquino in a negative light, I like to point out that, hey, they had the balls to step up and do something that other people did not have.
Without LaVey, you probably wouldn't be sitting here talking about
Exactly.
this.
Exactly. So he is who he was. He was a man, and he had faults and he had issues,
Well, much
as
like
we all
Crowley
do.
for the
Exactly.
Thelemites. Yeah.
There you go. So
Don't get me started.
but back on the Satan thing, I wrote a blog, and it's still on my blog site. It's called Open Letter to Luciferians, and basically chastising not only Luciferians but other pagans for using Satan as their whipping boy.
A scapegoat.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm a pagan, but I'm not a Satanist, and so they're feeding that whole mentality of evil. Like,
Well, let's take it even back further. Flip Wilson. The devil made me do it.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. So I saw a lot of Luciferians trying to separate themselves from Satanists by putting Satanists down. And I'm like, how can you do that? Most of the Satanists that I know are atheists or agnostic, and they're law-abiding, contributing members of society. You'd be amazed at how many doctors and lawyers, and, well, maybe you wouldn't be amazed about the lawyers, but doctors, nurses, EMTs, people who serve the community, soldiers that are Satanists. And they don't, if you notice on my Left-Hand Path conference site, some of these people are going by their magical names. They're not using their mundane names. There's a reason for that.
Of course.
Because, you know, they realize that there's a stigma.
Persecution does exist.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm an idiot, aren't I?
But there are people that serve the community in amazing ways and give money to the community and give back in so many different ways, and they feel that they cannot come out as a Satanist because it's just been I know you guys are going to laugh. It's been demonized. Just had to say that.
Yeah.
But they're not using the definition of Satanism as a Christian would use the definition of Satanism. They have a different definition.
They see Satan as an archetype for enjoying the carnal aspect of life.
I gotta say, I've been really happy of late that there does seem to be a movement within witchcraft towards a more, you know, holistic witchcraft, kind of away from Wicca.
Right.
And, you know, hell yeah, we invite a dark oak god to our sabbats. Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Well, at summer solstice, James and his wife joined us down at summer solstice. And as we were sitting around the fire, and luckily we didn't catch anything on fire this time, I was very happy about that.
Oh, yeah, that's always a good thing.
Yeah, it's always a good thing. And I brought up the idea of the birth of the dark child. And welcoming the dark child. And who is the dark child? Because we celebrate the return of the light at Yule.
Right.
And somehow
Exactly.
we have deluded ourselves by thinking that we should not be celebrating the return of the darkness
right.
at midsummer. Because that is when the light begins to fade. And the dark child begins to grow.
Exactly.
But we all have somewhere in us that bit of fear that is left over from our Christian culture, because it gets to us even as infants, whether we are raised that way or not, just by the society.
It's societal indoctrination.
Right, so it's very cultural for us.
Yes, it is.
And so we never come to terms with that idea of the dark child is a beautiful thing.
Well, we need balance.
Right.
That's the bottom line. And the reason why I insist against my mother's better wishes of calling myself a Luciferian is because Lucifer has both the light side and the dark side. Lucifer is Venus. Venus, during 6 months of the year, Venus follows the sun when it sets. And the other 6 months of the year, it rises before the sun. So it is the morning star 6 months out of the year, and it's the evening star 6 months out of the year. And so it screams balance, and that, to me, that's Baphomet. I have another blog, The Archetypal Symbolism of Baphomet, and basically, you know, it talks about that balance, that male and female, light and dark, and how really you don't want to go all the way one way or all the way the other. You don't want to just totally embrace the dark, and you don't want to totally embrace the light, because you have to have both. And that is why, as a Mason, every time I walk into the lodge and I see the black and white tiles, that's a reminder to me that we need to achieve balance in our lives, in our spiritual life, in our physical life, everything.
And that's what James and I were talking about before you got here, is that most people don't understand, particularly those who follow, and I will say classic Wicca, as if there were such a thing, being such a young religion. There really isn't. But what many of us grew up with is the idea of Wicca being all fluffy and light and only embracing the light, you know, with those new age overtones. Balance is about in the light, in the dark, in the light, in the dark, going back and forth. You guys can't see me making this wave motion, but there's that line, and it's like, you know,
just like electricity.
I knew those terms, I don't know what those proper electrical terms
sine
are about
waves.
Sine waves and
sine
things.
Waves. And basically, you're right, and everything is electrical. We generate a voltage. Every living thing generates a voltage. And those waves are sine waves. And that should be a major clue to us that, you know, we need to go with the flow. And I think this, you know, we're right in the middle of a new age that is being birthed. So we're suffering from the birth pangs of the new age and the death throes of the old. And the old age,
meaning the Piscean age.
Yes, was out of balance. It was, you know, all about denying that darker subconscious part of ourselves. And now we're coming out of that, and now people are starting to kind of wake up.
Well, the Piscean age was worse than that, because the Piscean age was about denying personal power.
Yes, absolutely. And that's really what the left-hand path is trying to bring back into awareness, that the power is within us to change our own environment and change what's going on. We don't have to tolerate the injustices of the world. We can change those things. And, you know, I know it with the way the world is, and there's always been strife and war and turmoil and disease.
And always will be.
And always will be. But I think that when you feel your own personal power and you realize that you can at least change your own environment and make it better, improve your environment, help others, help bring others up. Luciferians see the helping of others as a necessity for ourselves, because if you live in a society that is oppressed and being beat down, you're going to be oppressed and beat down. But if you help to bring others, pull others up, and make and improve things on a physical level, a spiritual level, emotional level, then you're going to be surrounded by better energy.
Right.
So I don't care how you look at it, it's really a selfish motivation to help others. And I think that's how a lot of Satanists see it too. Like, because I know a lot of Satanists who volunteer. I volunteer my time, as you know, to help the community. And sure, we want to help others. We feel good about helping others. But there is a selfish component there that you have to acknowledge. And that is that if I help my family and I help my community, that helps me.
All right. Well, we're getting close to the end already. So
oh no, we've hardly even touched the subject.
I know. So, but I'm going to cut you guys off from this esoteric kind of thing. First off, just touch a little bit on what the Luciferian Research Society is.
Okay. Its main goal is to bring together artists, writers, and musicians to collaborate on real-world projects for the that will help facilitate the evolution, the spiritual and intellectual evolution of mankind.
All right.
And one of our real-world projects was the first International Left-Hand Path Conference, and I promised Jeremy that I would host this one. He hosted the first one in Toronto, and I promised him I would host this one, even though we're in the middle of the Midwest, and it seems like an unlikely place.
A little bit.
But here we are, and we have several great speakers. I don't know how much. Do I have time to at least cover?
You can list a few. I'm going to be there. I
Yes.
know Lorelei Black is going to be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we have Taylor Elwood, who's going to talk about manifesting wealth. Lorelei Black is going to talk about Lucifer and Azazel and Cain. Bill Duvendeck's going to talk about the Lucifer Christ archetype. We've got Andre Vitamus, who's going to cover basic sigil magic.
I am looking forward to meeting him.
Oh, yeah, me too. And Lucian Farrow, he's going to talk about the psychological empowerment of the left-hand path sorcery. Lucian is a 31-year-old, very, very successful businessman who's also very good looking, but you won't see what he looks like at the conference. I think he's going to wear a mask because that's his thing.
Huh.
Nobody's seen what he looks like except for me. I had lunch with him once. We've got Evil Knight, who's actually going to discuss, he's an expert in the life of the Marquis de Sade. And I just found some of the things he told me about the Marquis de Sade quite interesting and surprising. So I said, yeah, we need to have you there. Saturday, we've got Ken Hansen. He's going to talk about alchemy and astral projection. And we've also got David Smith, who's a local guy. He wrote the book Quantum Sorcery, which is incidentally referred in one of Typhon Draconis' writings, which he's getting ready to publish. He talks about David Smith's ideas in quantum sorcery. And Typhon Draconis, I just got him on the program. He is a Satanist. He was in the original Church of Satan, and he was also in the original Temple of Set. And so he's got a lot of experience on the left-hand path. He also is the owner of the Black Glyph publishing house. We've got Jeremy Crow, of course, and he's doing a talk on lucid dreaming. Oh, and back to Typhon. Typhon's going to talk about the acausal forms of the acausal behind magic and how magic works from the acausal level, which is very, very interesting. He wrote a paper on it, and I read it. He sent it to me, and well, it's more like a pamphlet, but it's very interesting, and I'm really excited about that. We've got Sorceress Cagliostro. She's going to talk about the science of blood sorcery, the static practice. I am not familiar with this genre, but she's got several books on Amazon, and she's got quite a following. We've got Frater Knight, who's going to talk about void magic. His book just came out this month. And Corvus Nocturnum, he's going to talk about secret societies and Satanism. He is actually the media spokesperson for the Church of Satan. We're going to have book signings. Michael Ford is speaking on what is Luciferianism, and he never does book signings, but he's going to do book signings at this one. And of course, James Wilbur, who wrote Babylon, and by the way, I read your book. Very good.
Thank you.
Very good. The first one, anyway.
Yeah.
I think that is awesome that you write fictional books about Babylon. And so check out, the first one's free on Amazon, so check it out.
Now you're pimping for me.
Yep.
That's what
I'm going to do that. Yeah. And so Sunday we've got Taylor Elwood and Corvus Nocturnum that they're going to talk about writing and publishing, because Taylor is also a publisher. And then we're going to have panel discussion. We're going to have a Gnostic Mass. And Friday night we're going to have poetry readings and left-hand path musicians. And Saturday we have a ball, a black tie ball scheduled. If I don't sell enough tickets for the ball, it's going to be a cocktail party. Just letting you all know.
Okay.
Right now. I'm hoping that I sell enough tickets that it'll be a ball, but if it's not, it'll be a really awesome cocktail party, because all the speakers and presenters are going to be there. So that pretty much covers it. It's a 3-day event. It's July 25th, 26th, and 27th.
At the convention center?
No, it's at the Marriott East on 21st and Shadeland. There are...
Right down the road.
Yeah, and we still have some rooms left there. We had to open up another block of rooms, but there's no room at the inn on Thursday. However, the Fairfield Inn next door, which is also owned by the Marriott, has rooms, and so does La Quinta next door on the other side.
If they come early
and they're cheaper.
And help me pack, they can sleep on my floor.
Oh, yeah, cool. Great. And I'm sorry I can't invite people to sleep on my floor because I've actually got some of the presenters that are staying in my apartment. So.
And I understand there's only about 50 tickets left to this thing?
Yes. And it's limited. Once those 50 tickets are sold, we're done. I won't be selling tickets at the door, most likely, because I think those tickets are going to sell pretty quickly, and then that's it, because we have limited space. But
if there are tickets left, what's a good way to connect with you? What's a good way?
The tickets are being sold on Eventbrite, and so you can go to Eventbrite, or you can find me on Facebook. I'm all over. Gosh, if you just type in my name on Google, you'll see it, and you can contact me through my blog, which is WordPress. I think WordPress.pneumaticos93, or just actually type in pneumaticos93.
And that will all be in the show notes as usual.
Yeah. So there's several ways to get a hold of me. People email me. I just moved, and AT&T pulled a really douchebag move on me and canceled both my email addresses and just dumped them. Just like, boom, gone.
Yikes.
So I'm in the process of trying to let everybody know what my new email address is. And so.
Well, you got that for us, and so we can put that in the show notes as well?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I got that.
But for this event, they cannot buy their tickets through Ether, right? They must physically contact you one way or another and actually pay money.
No.
No, they can buy through Eventbrite.
No.
Oh,
no.
I'm so through. I see what you're saying.
Ether.
Psychically, yeah. Like the ones. Okay, on the event page, I think it's something like 145 people said that they are going, and I can tell you those 145 people have not bought tickets. So, we'll see. I mean, I've talked to the Marriott. I actually shrunk the space down because I didn't want to be on the hook for too much money.
Right.
And so now it is what it is. I whittled down the space, but there's still enough space for vendor tables and the artists and the speakers and all the other stuff that we need to do. But ticket sales. And I know people generally wait till the last minute. The people at Marriott told me that all their conventions, people
wait till the last
have
minute.
Waited until the last minute. And I'm just warning you that if you wait till the last minute this time, there might not be any tickets left.
Okay. What else have we got going on?
Well, we've got those festivals at Median that we're doing over the summer.
We will both be at the She Festival. You will be speaking. I will just be there.
With your lovely
Saturday,
wife?
with my lovely wife. Just on Saturday.
Right.
Still not camping yet. Still haven't talked into that yet. Maybe
Never
next
going to
year.
happen with me. But 5 o'clock on Saturday, I'm speaking.
5 o'clock on Saturday. You don't like me.
Oh, I did want to say real quick, somebody did donate a ticket. And I'll be coming up with some sort of a contest in the next week or so to give that away.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll tell people
So I'll let you know.
Look out for that.
Yeah.
I might also go to, what do they call it? Cunning Folk Fair?
Oh, yeah?
Thinking about that one.
When's that?
That is the first weekend in August. Also down at Midian.
Is that the one where they're doing all the canning talks or is that the Homesteaders?
That's
one?
the Homesteaders. Cunning Folk is traditional witchcraft.
There's so much going on down there
Mm-hmm.
for its first year as a campground. It's just amazing.
I've never been there.
Well, because it's only been open since Beltane.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Let's see, stuff I got. Scroll Thoth Press. We are starting a publishing arm.
Really? Cool. I didn't even know that yet.
I talked about it last time.
All right, I'm a doofus. What can I say? I'm moving. That's my excuse for everything.
She's moving. She's got an excuse. Go to the Scroll Thoth website, and you will find information there about Scroll Thoth Press. We're starting out with 2 anthologies, one on activist magic and one on aeonics. Looking for essays from people. Still have openings for the book. I guess I'll come out and actually say that we have arranged for Ramsey Dukes is going to has a submission to one of them, so you will be in good company if folks who want to submit something there. Information is on the website. Let's see, what else have I got? Come to scrollthoth.com, check out the show notes. Use our Amazon search window to buy your stuff off Amazon. Also have a PayPal button there to help us out. It's not free to host and do all this, so your donations are welcome.
And sometime by the end of summer, Joel and I should have the book Wicca 103 ready. Joel is writing the book. I'm doing the editing and some of the graphics and the, putting things together. Because Joel has no editing skills. Sorry, Joel, it's true.
But you should never edit your own work anyway.
That's going to be something that we're putting together that comes out of our 7-year practice in the prisons now. Because we found out that a lot of books who call themselves Wicca 101 or 101 of anything tell you what to do, but they never tell you why to do it or how to do it. They just say, you need to go figure out how to do this. So this is full of training exercises to get you to the point where you can actually do visualization and, how do you do those things that all those other books tell you that you ought to know how to do.
Oh, good. We've got some principles. That's good. How to actually do stuff.
Yeah, and that's good because, even people in the left-hand path have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And a lot of these systems are a big help, and that's why I don't have any problem with starting wherever you feel comfortable, and whether it's Wicca or anything, any place where you feel comfortable and you're starting out and learning about the esoteric world, the occult world, and learning how to do things. Because let's face it, if you're jumping into chaos magic without any other previous experience, it can be a little intimidating.
It depends on where you jump in. The one thing I love about chaos magic, and I almost wish that, the new traditional witchcraft movement would embrace chaos magic, because chaos magic starts out with those foundational principles. It starts out with how do you create altered states of consciousness?
That's true.
How do you do visualization? Building up the skills to be a magician. This is what you need to do. You need to be able to sit by yourself for an hour alone in a room.
Without the radio on, with the television on.
Or Facebook, yeah.
You know how to achieve, ways of moving things to your subconscious. A lot of people accuse chaos magicians of having no principles, but actually I think it's probably one of the most principled
absolutely
paths out there. But anyway...
But some of the books can be a little, I think, for someone who's just starting out, they might want to try a regular system before they go into chaos magic, just because it will give them that experience.
Discipline is good for many things, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, exactly.
And discipline does not mean hitting somebody. Discipline means
following
self-discipline.
a path. Yes, self-discipline.
Yes.
I didn't want to get confused with your BDSM friend there who's coming to the conference, because I'd like to hear him speak.
Yeah, well, and mostly he's going to talk about the life of the Marquis de Sade, not necessarily his practices. And there's some surprising things about his life that I wasn't aware of. So, for instance, my friend Evil Knight says that the Marquis de Sade was a feminist. So I can't wait to hear him explore that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Other ways to connect with us, we have a phone number, 317-296-3247. Give us a call, ask questions, tell us how you hate the show. You can also leave us reviews on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you found the program. You can connect with me at jameslwilbur.com, scrollthoth.com, scrollthoth.tumblr.com, magicalrecord.tumblr.com, and on Facebook, and I occasionally Twitter. Occasionally.
Me, I'm just on Facebook as Colleen Kelly, but some people tell me you can only find me as Wooglet, which is my email address, and that'll be in the show notes too. It's wooglet@gmail.com.
Excellent. And Lori, you already said you have a WordPress blog, and you're also on Facebook as well?
Yeah, and I also have a WordPress blog just for the conference as well. So the second International Left-Hand Path Conference, and if you just Google that, it'll pop you right into the WordPress website.
Cool.
We should get together sometime in the future and continue this conversation.
Yes.
Because it's been so revealing for me.
Well, good.
But after the conference, because then, we'll have another frame of reference because James will have been there as well.
Right.
And then we'll have lots of other stuff to talk about.
Exactly.
And as a preview for some of our listeners, some of the presenters at the Left Hand Path Conference have invited me to record their presentations, and I will be posting them as separate podcasts from Scroll of Thoth. So that'll be interesting. You get to hear some of it. Those who have agreed. Music for this podcast is provided by Shoebox Recordings. The intro was a selection from Journey by Coben, and taking us out is Hair Dye by East Coast. Thank you very much for joining us and enlightening us today. Good night,
and before we close, bring me boxes and people with muscles who want to move stuff. Thanks.
And thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Sure,
I appreciate it. It has been a lot of fun.
Right. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Okay, about the recording.
Yes.